Today, as the Blue Lodge is busy, I thought I would use the Red Lodge at the Tokyo Masonic Center, which is normally used by Scottish Rite and York Rite. As a Blue Lodge apron would be incongruous, I'm not wearing it today. The widow's son. There are several aspects to the story of the widow's son that I would like to explore in separate videos. Here I would like to examine what work Hiram actually did, then look at his death, and lastly, the meaning of his name. As the Hiramic legend is found both in the Bible and the Book of Jewish Antiquities by Flavius Josephus, it is not considered a secret by the present Grand Lodge of England. At the time of the constitutions of Freemasons in 1723, there were still only 2 degrees being performed. As it states in the regulations, no brother can be Grand Master unless he be a fellow craft before his election. So by 1723, there was still no 3rd degree. Some historians of Freemasonry have claimed that the Hiramic legend was a later invention. However, it seems that the Committee of 14 was already considering the use of the story of Hiram for the 3rd degree, but probably had not finalized the ritual at that point. Instead, it decided to include a footnote to it in the 1723 constitutions. That way, it was not such a surprise when the 3rd degree was announced. The constitutions were not updated for another 15 years. We cannot be sure when the full 3rd degree with Hiram first appeared. However, it is given in the expose in Masonry Dissected in 1730, so it must have been before then. In the 1723 constitutions, there is a long footnote about Hiram in the history section on pages 11 and 12, which is page 14 in Franklin's edition. And later, he is referred to as the master of the work. In Europe, the function of an architect started around the time of the end of the Tudors. Before then, all buildings were designed and built by artisans such as carpenters and stonemasons. In the constitutions of 1723, Hiram Abif is described as the most accomplished mason on earth and the prince of architects. But there is no biblical confirmation of this. It may have been an allusion to some revered person such as Inigo Jones or Christopher Wren. As A.E. Waite states, it is very unlikely that Hiram Abif was a builder, let alone an architect. The Bible in the Book of Kings says, "And King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali. And his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass. And he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all the works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work." We read in the book of Chronicles, "And now I have sent a cunning man endued with understanding of Hiram my father's, the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan. And his father was a man of Tyre, skillful to work in gold, and in silver, in brass, in iron, in stone, in timber, in purple, in blue, and in fine linen, and in crimson." That does not sound as though Hiram was either an architect or a stonemason, but may have had some skill in working with stone. Or otherwise, the list would have put his stonemason skills first, such as a man of Tyre, skillful in working with stone and in gold and silver, etc. The pillars, Boaz and Jachin, were cast in brass on the plain of Jordan by Hiram, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all the works in brass. In Kings, it describes in detail the 2 brass columns, as well as the lavers, ornaments, and even the chariot wheel spokes that Hiram made. But there is no record of Hiram building King Solomon's temple. In Josephus, we learned that Hiram was exceptionally busy, as it details all the hundreds of ritual vessels and other utensils he made. Secondly, the story of his murder is not found in either Book of Kings or the Book of Chronicles, but in Kings it does give a different story. So Hiram made an end of doing all the work that he made King Solomon for the house of the Lord. In the constitutions of 1723, Anderson doesn't mention the death of Hiram, but in 1738 he does include it, saying 3 ruffians killing the prince of architects. And as a last point, what does Abif mean? On page 11 of the Constitution 1723, for most of the page, it outlines the relationship between King Hiram and Hiram Abif, and on the next page, Hiram's family tree. He was described as Hiram, or Huram, the most accomplished mason on earth. Hiram Abif was called the Prince of Architects, but that is only a term of admiration. Anderson was not implying Hiram was of royal blood. The discussion in the Constitution 1723 was to resolve what seemed to be an issue at the time, whether Hiram Abif was actually the father of Hiram of Tyre. In the Constitution 1723, Addison even adds a footnote on this point, saying, "But the difficulty is over at once by allowing the word Abif to be the surname of Hiram the Mason, called also Hiram Abi, as here a Hiram Abif." Anderson is referring to 2 Chronicles where the King James Bible translates from Hebrew Huram, my father's, as Hiram Abif, which adds to the confusion. On top of this, Anderson brazenly makes the metalworker into a Freemason. The most plausible explanation can be found in Mackey's Revised Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, where he suggests that Abif means father and was used as a term of respect. As usual, there is more to this story than meets the eye, and I will focus on this in upcoming videos. Thank you.